So, we're going to go through a few layers of the Torah. So on the Pshat level, you could have really deep questions like Pshat, Remesh, Drush, and Sod. Pshat is the most superficial layer. It's like the outside. And then Drush is like an inner side, and then there's the outside of the inside, and then there's the inside. And this is like the straightforward meaning, the deeper meaning, the hint, and then really the secret. So, for example, Abraham sent Eliezer to go get a wife for his son. Why didn't Eliezer give Rivka's family a big dowry for giving their good daughter? After all, they raised her, and she was their shepherdess, and they lost her future children to be their workers and helpers, as was done in those days. It seemed like coming to take away the good and not being like what we call a karsatov, like gratitude and repaying the family. But then we learn on deeper layers about the way her brothers were, and how women were actually given people were paid to take women, like they would take care of her. Her family became rich, for example, her children, and they didn't have to take care of her anymore. She was not another mouth to feed, for example. Why does Yaakov on purpose use all the healthy animals to mate for his flocks and then give the weaker for Lavan? Why didn't he build up the one who gave him the good to start without a gratitude, appreciation for the initial investment he didn't have on his own, and then wondering cluelessly why Lavan in a sense had resentments? Now it turns out that actually he was always winning. If he made a deal with Lavan, I'll have the speckled procreated a lot. He did not. He built up both Lavan's flocks and his. Now he worked for 14 years. So of course he got an investment, but he gave back for all that time. Why did Jonathan provoke and test and infuriate his father deliberately to make David look disobedient, and like he dishonored the king and flaked at the usual celebration feast without permission, and instead of asking the king, he asked the son? So we could say, how do we know that there was true friendship? Because actually Jonathan was supposed to be the future king. He was going to be the future prince, and so as the future king. So it's actually very different than just, being somebody in the house. He was the future king. So you could see that his relationship with David was that David was going to be the successor. So why does it say Adam should let go of his mother and father and instead cleave to his wife if there was no father and mother, and God formed him from clay and blew a spirit into him? So there we learn that actually that Adam was supposed to let go of where he came from in order to create a new world. And we're all similar to Adam, it says. I mean, we're all like, not similar to Adam, we are all comprised, Adam is composed of all of us. Why did Yaakov paint himself out like he got the blessings of the double portion honestly, when in actuality he exploited Esav's hunger and had him sell his birthright, and at a moment of starvation, then also had to even wear animal skins to pretend to be Esav and deceived his father to get those blessings? So we learn actually that Yaakov was the firstborn. He just held on to Esav's ankle in a way that he came out second, but he was inside first. Now, why do we say, in terms of twins, why do we say that it isn't for everyone else? Because in this case, Esav actually said, I will be unable to be so sanctified, and he would actually be the death penalty. He couldn't handle the power and responsibility of his job. So actually, he didn't want to be the firstborn. Okay, then according to Chabad Chassidus in Tanya, Kuntres, acharon, middle of essay 4, it says, how can Mashiach be a Jew if the soul of Mashiach is from Torah associated with the Sag name, when the souls of Jews derive from Tikkun associated with Man name? The world of Tikkun is merely a glimmer on the forehead of Adam Kadmon, while the world of Tohu, which the kings of Edom are said to represent, the spirit of, and the king who ruled the land, the kings who ruled in the land of Edom ruled before any of the Jewish kings ruled for Israel. Genesis 36:31. While the world of Tohu stems from roots from the internal level of Adam Kadmon. So, for example, here we're going very, very deep. So, the information here is going to be very, very deep. And so we'd say, on what level of the soul is the soul of the Jew? Like, let's say it's going to be like, we learn this as the higher, from the thing that's heavier falls, like basically the thing that's comes from higher falls lower. And so this soul that at the time of Mashiach's soul will be something that comes from higher and goes even lower into the world in order to be the Mashiach for the world, not just for the Jews, the Mashiach for the Jews, but for the world. Then one more idea is like, how can we as Jews not feel ashamed for driving out the Canaanite nations, taking their land and houses, and then enslaving those who remained and saying it's because God told us to? Well, it turns out that the land did, it says that it vomited them out. What does that mean? It means that it was like they were causing their own demise naturally because of what they were doing in their land. It says they were very immoral. We could think nowadays the diseases that come from interbreeding and how they were doing incest, for example. It was something of their practices. And another thing from Tanya, Kuntres, acharon, in the middle of the essay, it says, not on bread alone does a man live, but on all that comes forth from God's mouth does a man live. That's devarim 8:3. Isn't it paradoxical that man needs to be sustained by the inferior life forms of vegetative and inorganic, even the living classes, deriving sustenance from them and living through them? The tikkun soul, extracting and purifying the sparks which come from them and living through them. Which come from tohu, giving an additional spark of vitality because of their lofty source, drawing down divine energy for him via the creative divine utterance found, for example, in the bread, when he already had his own ongoing existence sustained by the creative divine utterance. Let us make man, Genesis bereishis 1:26, that provides for him. The bread's creative utterance clearly has a higher source, tohu, than the source of the creative utterance that animates man, tikkun. In other words, the energy of the bread sustaining us means it is a higher level of sustenance than we have, and they're sustained by God's word. And there's this idea of the fruit. So we talked about the pshat, remez, drush, sod, and sometimes it's referred to as paradise, and in there's the fruit, like I mentioned, the inside out. So we also say there's 4 Kabbalistic worlds. We have Atzilus is bulged off, pinching out for myself. Bria is the packaging of the unit and zipping it shut. Yetzira is the specifics, the species, like, for example, orange. And Asiya is the stage of development, for example, ripe, unripe, immature, mature, unpalatable, edible, and whether it's also like a baby plant or an adult producer. And we're going to stop here and do a 6-minute meditation. Just seated silent meditation together. Okay, Google, turn on a timer for 6 minutes.
Okay, 6 minutes. Starting now.
Okay, Google, turn off the alarm. Okay, Google, turn off the alarm. And that's all.